The literal and metaphorical rape of Britain has carried on for far too long, and it will soon be exposed for the world to see. In huge breaking news tonight, the government has announced it will finally launch a national inquiry into the Pakistani grooming gang scandal that's plagued towns and cities across this nation for decades. The Prime Minister acted swiftly tonight in a bid to get ahead of the long-awaited Casey report, which is likely to be published on Monday. The massive U-turn, of course, comes just months after he described calls for a national inquiry as a far-right bandwagon. I'd warn everybody at home to brace themselves for what's to come in the Home Office's national audit on group-based child sexual exploitation and abuse report, authored by Baroness Louise Casey, because the details being leaked tonight are devastating. In fact, the government is so scared about the report's conclusions, it reportedly fears Southport-style riots all across Britain when the public, you at home, hear them next week. The report has apparently found that grooming gangs can be explicitly linked with men of Pakistani origin. The Prime Minister will be warned that white British girls and boys who were targeted were institutionally ignored for fear of racism. So Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, despite his reluctance for it, will be told to launch a new inquiry into the scandal. He has already, of course, acted on this tonight. And additionally, and quite interestingly, as far as I'm concerned, illegal migration, including those who come over to Britain on small boats across the Channel, is directly linked with the exploitation and violence of British girls. So look, normal people didn't need the Casey report to know that the Pakistani rape gang scandal was racist in nature, both the deliberate targeting of white English girls and boys and the cover-up that followed. We already knew that we needed a national inquiry. And we already knew that strange men from faraway lands who invade this country on small boats are a threat to the girls and women of this nation. Unfortunately, the people in charge seemingly didn't know or didn't care. That is, until now. Publication of the Casey review will be a watershed moment in British politics. As political scientist and migration expert Mike Jones eloquently wrote on X today, he said, Labour is about to walk straight into a moral and political firestorm. And when it hits, they'll have two choices. No wiggle room, no clever triangulation, just this. Option A, pull the pin, call for a full national inquiry, open the books, let the public see the rot, even if it means dragging half the Labour machine through the muck. Or option B, kick it into the long grass, pretend Casey didn't say what she said, hope the press loses interest, protect the bad actors, not just in Labour, but across the wider state machinery. The results? It'll look exactly like what it is, a stitched-up, top-down, old-school establishment whitewash. And then the whole thing explodes. Well, Labour tonight have already made their choice. They've rightly gone for the full judge-led national inquiry. The books will be opened, the rot will be exposed, and heads should roll. And although arguably a separate issue, it has been reported that the Casey report, as I mentioned, will directly link illegal immigration to threats against women and girls in this country. I've already said for a long time now on this show, over many evenings, that small boat invaders on the Channel are a national security threat. Maybe in light of this report, the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Darren Jones, will stop trying to gaslight the nation when talking about the small boat scandal.
And when you see that the majority of the people in these boats are children, babies and women who have been...
No, they're not.
I do wonder what Mr Jones thinks of the incoming Casey review on Monday, bearing in mind those comments over the past couple of nights. Well, I'm joined now by GBNews national reporter Charlie Peters on this. Charlie, thank you for your company. A momentous evening for the victims, for the government as well. They've got lots of questions to answer. And indeed for you. How are you feeling tonight and what's ahead?
Well, how am I feeling? That's a difficult... We'll get there eventually, maybe in a week. But it's what the survivors are feeling, which I think is so central, because I've spoken to dozens since this news came through before it broke at 6 p.m. And there is some positivity there, right? We've interviewed people on the channel this evening who are smiling, which just doesn't happen with this story. We've, as you know, we've had countless exclusives, really damning reports, stories about cover-ups, failures to prosecute individuals, failures to properly investigate this issue. Many of the survivors who've been part of that coverage have been contributing to this, our reaction to this announcement from the Prime Minister today. And they are feeling a sense that this could finally be the moment when they're taken seriously on a national level. There have been moments where we've put out some reports and other journalists have done work, and then in reaction to media pressure, There is a small moment where the police or some local authority says, we recognise there was wrongdoing there, we apologise and we'll do something now. But then it goes quiet. It's always been the case that it was going to take a national effort, a government-led review, covering the length and breadth of this nation, because over 50 different towns and cities are affected, according to GBNews research. It's always going to take that national effort for this to be taken seriously for all victims and survivors. So there is that optimism from them. But it's cautious, because they haven't been down this specific road before, a national inquiry specifically on the grooming gangs, with statutory powers, which is a remarkable announcement. But they have been told by politicians countless times over the years, decades in fact, that they're being listened to, that they're going to take them seriously, that they're going to act on recommendations, that they're going to engage with this issue properly. The fact of the matter is, Ben, no government of any stripe has ever taken this issue seriously. And it's taken a Labour government, the party that has been caught up in this turmoil far more than any other, with more Labour councillors and local authorities being cast into disgrace through this national exploitation, child abuse, grooming scandal. It's taken Labour to make this decision. Perhaps it could only ever be Labour to do this. Perhaps it's taken this level of scrutiny on a government led by a Labour Prime Minister for them finally to resist and say, we can't actually put up with this level of scrutiny anymore. We have to take this step forward. Perhaps they've gone for option A, as Mike Jones was referring to.
Yeah,
in that
such a good tweet. Such a good tweet. Nigel Farage tweeted earlier, Charlie, that the inquiry needs to be done correctly. What does that mean, done correctly? He says, I repeat the words, done correctly. This cannot be a whitewash.
Well, there are over 7,000 victims who contributed to the ICSA report, the 7-year-long public inquiry, which cost nearly £200 million, looking at child abuse in this country. That was not done properly when it came to the grooming gang scandal. It looked at abuse by Jimmy Savile, by the Catholic Church, in boarding schools, in care homes. But its approach to the grooming gang scandal was a subsection of a sub-report that took evidence for 2 weeks. Only one survivor of the grooming gangs was a statutory core participant in the ICSA review. I think Mr Farage is thinking about that inquiry. It's all very well and good saying we're going to launch an inquiry, but it has to be done properly. And that means it needs to focus on the right people. And it needs to put the fear of God in a lot of people tonight. It needs to have thousands of social workers, police officers, government officials quaking in their boots, unable to sleep tonight because they know one day someone will sit them down and ask them, what did you do? What did you know? Did you fail to protect some children?
Well, as Mike Jones said, and I'll say it again, let's expose the rot. You know, in order to clean something up, you've really got to get stuck in. So may it be the case that, you know, everything is brought to light, and the best sunlight, as they say, Charlie, is... Sorry, the best disinfectant is sunlight. Let's put our attentions back onto this grooming gang inquiry situation. Charlie Peters is still with us, and indeed my panel. Paul Richards, Linda Jubilee, Peter Blakeslee, welcome along. Panel, any questions for Charlie? Would you like to talk about anything?
Charlie, this has been going on for decades. I mean, I remember covering Rochdale and Rotherham at your age, which is many, many years ago. The point is, how high up does this scandal go?
It's a fun question, isn't it? Well, it's an important question as well. We don't know. We don't know because there's never been a judge-led inquiry. We've never had those questions asked of the right people. We've never known to what extent politicians in greater levels of power than, say, council leadership, for example, or ward councillors, were aware of this abuse and didn't act in it.
But not just councillors.
That's what I'm saying. But going beyond that level. We've never known beyond that level. And I think if councillors or police officers are invited to get evidence and have to swear under oath to tell the truth, that could be difficult for some people. OK? And it's not just political leadership that I think need to be concerned. It's civil servant leadership. I mean, that's the real clincher for me, because you referred to the fact that you were covering this a while ago. Many of the people who were, say, detective sergeants in the 1990s, they're not detective sergeants anymore. Or, let's say, a mid-ranking social worker manager, right? They're not mid-ranking anymore. Many of these people perhaps have pensions and they've moved on into happiness, but they should still be dragged in front of a judge and asked questions. The Labour peer, Maurice Glasman, has said that if there is an inquiry, this is a Labour figure, it should have the powers of arrest, because a lot of people have gone their whole lives, decades, avoiding this scrutiny. I don't know how high it will go, but I hope to find out.
Peter?
There have been a number of courageous people that have got us to this position today. People like Maggie Oliver and her team, somebody that Charlie and I know very well. But there is someone sitting next to me who has played a very important part in achieving this today. Charlie Peters has been probative, determined and relentless with the backing of his employers, GBNews, and has played a significant part in getting us to where we are today. And I applaud this young man, not only for what he's done, but what I know he was going to do in the future. And it's a privilege to be able to shake his hand and say thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Peter. I have to say also thank you to GB News viewers, because they engage with this coverage. Investigative reporting is difficult. Convincing and gaining the trust of survivors takes years in time, and it requires, as you say, the backing of an employer to believe in that work, to think it's worthwhile. And GB News has done that. And I should say, tonight, we've led on this coverage, as you'd expect, for a very long time. Not everyone else has done that. And people need to ask, perhaps it's because they haven't got connections to many of the survivors to do that.
And it was all those years ago where you did that documentary on the grooming gangs, and it was GB News who took it. Nobody else would even touch it.
Only GB News wanted that work.
Yeah, there we go. Right, Charlie, thank you very much. We'll be catching up throughout the show.